Oh.
That's what I'm
But we can work
Alright, we ready to get started, guys? Ladies, gentlemen, shall we get started?
Yeah.
Well, I had to haul that travel truck out. My wife called with her luggage in it.
Well, I saw her going with a little bag and I thought, boy, she's going to go.
She went shopping.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't get to go shopping. Yeah. I'm not shopping.
Ready for round two.
I
I'm gonna ask Kevin one
don't
question.
get retail therapy. Yeah.
Alright,
That's where turn on the camera.
So we can take her attention. Sure, that's it.
The Honorable Albert Yonts has a question for Kevin.
I'll ask Kevin for 48. Two questions. I don't want an answer now about the balloon test, but I will an answer for the upcoming project. And I want to know, people ask me all the time, can we ask for or can we require a performance bond for completion of the project? A project, any project.
I don't believe you can. I don't believe you can ask for a performance bond to guarantee that someone's going to go through the project. Now, I believe you certainly can ask for a performance bond to guarantee the landscaping, to guarantee utilities that may not be put in a certain portion, whether it be a subdivision. And we do that. But you can also ask if a project was to start, let's say on a big piece of property, and they cut all the trees off and graded the site, and then they went belly up.
That actually happened.
Yeah, you could ask for them, and you could require of them a performance bond or letter of credit or something that would require them to reestablish the site, landscaping it, grading it back, stabilizing it, and try to, you're not going to get 30-inch oaks back on the site, but you can replant the site and get it back to its somewhat its original condition. You can do that.
So what was the bond that we did on Mountain Leaf?
That's what
Was it a performance bond that said that they could?
that was a requirement in the CUP.
Right.
They provide that, and that.
Okay, I'll take your answer at face value, but I want to ask this, and you may not be proficient in what I'm going to ask. Highway 321 went through the first contractor. He went belly up, and there was a bonding company's actually building that road. So how do we square that with what you just said?
It's a government project.
Too.
Government entities can require a performance bond on anything. They can do it on anything they buy if they want to, and it maybe increases the cost of something. But I remember when I used to sell things to the government, they required a performance bond. I mean, this is to the local government. They required a performance bond that I was financially strong enough that I could meet those obligations. And it cost me 5%
I understand.
for that performance bond.
I understand.
Now, I don't know if it's changed, Kevin, but I mean, but a governmental agency, like a town could ask if they were doing a government project for themselves, that they could ask for a performance bond. So if I wanted to build new stone walls, and you wrote the thing, I want 23 feet of wall, 4 feet high, and your bid is $38,000. I want a performance bond for $38,000. You better put it in your price. Because if you don't meet your, you can come in and ask for a reprieve from a time, but you're under no obligation to give it to them. Anyway,
That's really outside my,
Well, I would ask that you contact the Attorney General of the state and clarify this, because the last time I checked, Town of Blood Rock was a government corporation.
I think there's a line there when it becomes, it's government for whatever the project falls under what is considered best for the citizens as a whole, like a highway project, maybe a park project, but when it falls into play with a private residential project, I
I
don't
don't know
know.
that you can ask that.
When, if you look at the top item right here, whenever a company is doing something for the government itself,
Okay.
and I'm not sure where you were going, were you talking about like a performance bond for Chestnut Partners to make sure they complete it?
I'm talking about performance bond for X corporation that's gonna build something that's gonna be in our town. I want to know if we can require a performance bond that says you are gonna complete this project, or the bonding company's gonna complete it.
Well, if it's for
That's a good
public
question.
use, I think you
We'll
can
have to
do it.
investigate that
Well,
from a
but
legal
that-
standpoint.
That's why I
If
asked.
they're doing work for the government, you can definitely require it and.
Right, like building a schoolhouse or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to have to get bonded to put plumbing in school
Right.
buildings. But, I just wish we would ask the Attorney General.
Yeah, and I'm just guessing on
we
this,
can
it's
go-
just that I've seen so many unfinished projects on private development that for some reason, I don't feel that that's gonna be on us.
Well,
That'd be good to know.
I would certainly agree, Doug,
Well, let's find out
but,
if you want to.
And I'm sure that there are those at the School of Government who also have expertise. There is a person who is specifically deals with bonds and finance.
But Alan,
Crystal Loveland and Allison, Greg Allison.
okay.
Alan,
That's also the same, but I said I had to
Alan
vote.
Mosley can tell you.
Okay, we will check that.
I don't believe that either.
It is a state statute.
I think it's illegal.
What page are we on?
We're in the Constitution.
Let's see here, we're going to, mayor, council.
What happened to 105?
Satisfaction.
What, trash cans again?
But 105 was Moody Building, 106 was trash can.
Okay, so this is
107 is just,
planning and inspection.
right, this was just a table that for year end, we wanted you to see regarding the permit. 39 million, I can't expand that up there because it cuts off the edges. But it's 39 $515,000 is the year end permits issued. And there's not broken down there by month. So it's just informational.
Okay.
$39 million worth. If the tax assessment is anywhere close to that, we're gonna be adding roughly $40 million worth of tax revenue for that permit.
There'll be-
Page
One time.
The thing about that is, a lot of that value will not be reflected.
Yep.
There's a lot of construction that is changing out this, that, and the other. Unless it's adding square footage and real value, some of that will not be realized in tax. And the rate of assessing the tax value is not on the construction value. It just is not. That just gives you a snapshot of how much construction activity there is. And traditionally, it has been mostly residential in Blowing Rock. It has.
So I have a question for you. I have a house that, they renovated. They bought it for $300,000. It's worth, I could probably sell it for $600,000. The tax value on that property is still $300,000.
Today.
So it's
But
reevaluated.
when it'll be revalued after the construction.
The construction's done.
It will get.
Well, you know the
revalued
little
when
man
they
that
do
came
the
out and
tax
knocked on the door Reassessing them.
Is
No,
it taxing at 100
no,
or
is there a person that goes
Yeah.
It's
to,
supposed to
Yeah.
be in here, but it's-
Gary Romander represents
Yeah.
Watauga County.
Yeah,
And he's in our office once a week probably.
yeah.
He looks at permits and he goes out and assesses the value.
He came out to my house.
so,
Is there a bathroom in there?
there, I could probably give you like 25, 30 houses that are not reevaluated. I don't wanna,
Starts on.
or that, right, or that are incorrectly overvalued.
Tax valuations are up to the county, we don't have anything to do with them.
And it may be next year.
Right.
It may not change it till this year, like we just started paying
This
taxes.
was renovated in 2005.
I'll give you a
Well,
fair.
And if they're overvalued, that's up to
For
the owner to
instance-
go back to the county to ask that to be reduced.
The new country club facility that was built was $3 million, county valued it at $1 million.
So lucky
That was-
them.
What it costs to construct and
Yeah.
your contract price is gonna be a lot different from the tax value.
What was the value last year, Kevin? Is this an increase, decrease, a $40 million revenue?
That's a big increase.
Because you had Foley Center in there? And,
That was in 13. So that was $20 million.
Its tax value doesn't reflect us
Right.
except for,
So
except
so I'm
for
just
farmers.
looking at the construction cost.
Construction costs,
So this is an increase.
So,
that's the highest it's ever been.
so
About
unless,
$9 million, and that was over 2013 when the Foley Center was built.
Okay.
so unless you give this to Gary, is that his
He
name?
gets this.
And he goes out there
Thank you.
and revalues all of this
Set it aside.
property, we will not see any return on this.
Money.
We'll see a bunch of them,
Debt.
but they go to school, they learn to do valuations, they do a mass appraisal, and they have guidelines under which they operate. They have to determine what the value is based on those guidelines.
I just don't want this number going out to the public that, oh, all of a sudden,
This is public record.
Public.
no, they're gonna look at this number and say, well, y'all just got $40 million more.
Well, then
Not
when they come to you,
necessarily.
you say, no, this was construction costs, and that doesn't necessarily.
Right, and he didn't
indicate-
reevaluate that property, and the tax hasn't changed on this valuation.
Well, here's how he pulls the information is by the building permits. Because I had a building permit on a little thing that I did. And I get the knock on the door when it's 3/4 of the way done maybe.
Yeah.
And he said, do you have a bathroom in there? And I said, no, sir. And, we're going over and I said, you wanna go in the house? And he said, no. And he did the outside dimensions, but it was not reflected on my tax this year, even though it was completed. It'll be next year though.
This,
again.
this $16 million for the condos at Chestnut, that will not be realized for a couple of years. They're
Right,
not gonna be completed, and then it's gonna be the following tax year.
right.
And what you're mentioning too about renovations, if I go in and renovate a house and I do not add bathrooms, do not add a room, if I'm making general improvements, a lot of times that won't affect your valuation.
Not much.
I know that. I
And
know.
he'll ask you a question.
I know.
You'll get them.
But,
But
but her point is, somebody can take that information, just like they say, oh, look, oh my gosh, $39 million.
what are they gonna do with that? Why
Our
don't they
taxes
do
ought to go down.
sunset? Why don't we make
Yes,
an
that's what people
indoor,
think.
outdoor? That's what they're gonna think.
Yes.
But we need
They've
to.
always thought that.
But you have to
I know.
educate them. This is a point of education
Okay.
as a council person.
Okay, I just,
Because some people don't understand it. And
Yeah.
I don't think we
Nicole
understand.
is absconding with all the extra money. Yeah. I said, what'd you do with all the money?
Call the auditor.
I think what you would like to see is another column out there at the end that says what
Estimated
the
tax value.
estimated tax.
And that's hard.
Well,
That's
exactly.
that's just throwing darts, you're not really gonna nail it
I
down.
think
Yeah.
Sue made a good point. It's up to us to educate the citizen. If it's brought to our table, then we say, yes, that's gonna occur over a course of many years. And this is the permits, this is the cost. So we will not realize this.
Here's your construction value. 2013 was 30 million, 30.7. 2014 was 20 million. 2015 was 14 million. 2016, 13 million. So 13 to 39 is a big jump.
so what
Big
would be great to see along with that is those same years you called out, and what our tax valuations changed. Do you see what I'm saying? What the real number is? This is
Well,
the permitting.
it's not gonna be nailed to that year.
I know.
Because
But see
some
what I'm
projects
saying?
take 2 or 3 years to complete.
Yeah, but we don't realize that money necessarily.
Right.
Albert,
Well, and Foley Center is nonprofit,
that's right.
so we don't get any tax value from that.
Well, we do
I
from the
think
pharmacy.
what you could do is,
Pharmacy.
what is
The
the new
doctor's office.
construction,
Pharmacy
and
is
that's
profit.
X, and then, renovation is Y, and then there's probably a rule of thumb that if X is $10 million, 75 or 80% of that 10 million is going to be like, it's really 8. What the tax value is going to be is somewhere around 8, but not 10.
And you know, when the Hay
Okay.
Center went to
So something like
Samaritan's
that.
Purse, we lost that as a tax.
And if it's
That was a big
a
deal.
hospital, it's 0.
So,
And all the stuff on 321 that DOT bought, lost the
Yeah,
tax.
I think people that live in
It's
bigger
attached to the
cities
same
see
building.
this
And
valuation
it's under
go
lease.
faster because the properties turn over faster.
If they lease,
And
if
when
they
they're
lease
sold for a
that
higher
from the
price, you're
hospital,
gonna
You
get
gotta pay
that
tax on it.
new valuation.
Tax guy
Only if
told
it's
us it would
triple
be
net.
tax.
Right, I don't think
I
they
don't know.
have
I don't know
What
either.
they,
I don't
But I think
what
that
they
they do.
sell or don't sell.
They're
We were
supposed
told
to,
it would be taxed.
But
just like the
Says
school,
that rate's cheap.
the school gets income,
Right.
How they
like
assess
on
it.
their dormitories. Excuse me, yeah, dormitories for
So
food
it's not
service.
very accurate. How do we put it?
Dormitories as a living unit. They pay a certain percentage, I think.
All
Some
these
people are
ones-
overpaid for taxes, some people are underpaid.
Not,
But we're not.
not like what we do, but they pay certain. So this is not all tax free. Now, they don't have a lot of insurance they can have, but I remember at COVID, we had to pay
Rain us
village
in, Mayor.
something for all of our.
Okay, Albert had a quick comment about,
They're gonna say it.
our windfall funds from,
Just think about it. Just think about it. We're gonna have some windfall money coming in. We are from the Chestnut thing especially. Maybe something at Morningside. I just would hope we would think about defining windfall for now and the future and somehow come up, and I'm not trying to usurp Ed's budgetary situation or problems, put a little of that windfall toward paying down debt. Or we're just gonna go out and buy a truck or whatever.
because right now our fund is running what? General fund is 47%.
47%.
Yeah, well, we wanna get it back up.
We want back up to 50,
Like 50.
51.
All I'm doing is asking. It's the only reason I came up here.
See, and that's the,
Oh,
that,
thanks.
when you hear that windfall, this is what I was talking about. You just put it out there, we're gonna have a windfall,
We are.
but it's not tomorrow, it's not, I mean, it's when these,
3 years, 5 years.
Whenever they're sold and
Yeah.
On page 108, this was done to address what Al was talking about. And, you know, that annual tax impact of 78,000 extra dollars, that's if these things are completed, and if the valuation is anywhere close to what the permitting was. So it may only be half of this, but it is more tax revenue.
Put that in perspective, a penny on the tax, on the dollar, is 125,000. So that'll give you an idea.
They don't.
I mean, that just puts it to me in perspective. The 78
You mean to
cents.
tell me that
Well, no, each
if I
building,
got 7 each building,
each building.
I was gonna say, they'll come up and assess each building as it's done, and then they're gonna levy the tax on that building, that's waiting for them.
Those are gonna be pretty close together. I mean, they're all coming up about some.
You wanna,
So to give you an idea, let's say it was $16 million of construction value. Let's say that's what they tax value at, 16 million. Make sure I'm doing the math right, 34 cents? Am I right?
37.
Thanks for pointing that out.
it's what are they sold for?
I can't remember, not that part.
Because you don't remember.
So, yes, right. So that's 59,000. Once completed, if it's $16 million of value, that's 59,000.
What do they do when they sell a house?
Doesn't seem right, it should be bigger.
What do they do when they sell a house?
What, there's a million things they do. Who are
The
they?
tax people. The tax people. What does the county do when they sell a house? Resale on a house?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing, no, they don't mean it.
Nothing?
It's recorded at the Register of Deeds, and they look at that data the next time they do a tax revaluation.
They get an excise
So they
tax.
don't, so they do it every 8 or 9 years?
Well, it used to be every 4. The state legislature says we are required to do it at a minimum of every 8, and they can do it every year if they so choose, but it's prohibitively expensive.
Jim, the
But
tax they get
The only
is
reason
the
you do it
excise
every
tax.
4 years
22.
is if the property values are going up. That's why you do it
If
every
they're
4
going down,
years.
they don't do
They
it.
don't.
No, they're gonna wait until the maximum, that's why we got the last.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
But they can change the schedule. It can be done every single year if they so desire. If the commissioner said that's what we want to do.
I mean, so that if the value, if it's going up, they can come in and change it every year if they want to.
That's
I
right.
thought it was every 4
Jim, the
years.
tax they do is the excise
They can
tax.
do it
The
every
sellers
year.
pay an excise
Oh, no.
tax. You take the purchase price and you divide it by 500. And that's the tax they pay when they record the new deed. It's called an excise tax. That's what they,
But
no,
there's no increase in the property.
No, there's no increase in property taxes.
but that
Okay.
tax may be
All right.
higher than.
Thank you, thank you.
Let's move on. You want to do the managing public records, so on and so forth? Okay, that's page 109, guys.
Thank you for coming, Kevin.
Kevin, where you going?
Kevin, thanks.
Just-
You going to Harvard break?
Did you want to stay and go to lunch with us?
Sierra Nevada.
No.
I didn't-
He's afraid you
No
might have
offense,
to buy.
No,
You got a
I got
big deal
things to
somewhere.
do.
no. Fish
gotta
starts
go
to
back
smell
to
after
work.
3 hours, doesn't it?
You got some celebrating to do, don't you?
He's got a ball game to go to.
No, it's Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, we'll keep going then.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, this is just 3 hours for you, or 2.5 hours. The rest of the, oh, no, you gotta get back.
Come on, let's not.
Thank you.
Be
Get
careful.
the gavel out.
Thanks,
I
Kevin.
get the gavel.
Get
Thanks
the
for
gavel out.
coming.
Where's the gavel?
Gavel out.
Are these your bills?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kevin.
bud.
See,
Get on that thing.
All right, there were a couple of people who wanted to address public records and sunshine laws and a number of different things. So I just made some copies of some data that I have received over the years that might be of interest to you. On page 109, managing public records for local government. This is statutory requirements based on North Carolina, and it's administered by the North Carolina State Archives. And I made some highlights on the screen. They're not there in your, not highlighted in your book, but just some of the things to look at there under the number 3 on the first page. The Department of Natural and Cultural Resources dictates what we can and cannot do regarding public records. Those of you who are new may not be aware of it, but we have a retention schedule that has to be approved, and it is it's looked at from time to time to see if any changes are warranted, but we start from a premise that the state tells us what we have to do. And then there are some areas where we have leeway. There are some records that are considered to be done in the course of business, and they are records that are of no particular importance, and they can be destroyed every single day. Notes that you write on, maybe notes that you write down to remember to call somebody. Or those things are not anything that we have a long-term schedule. What these things that are highlighted here is it tells that, what I'm saying here is that we have a book in Town Hall that has the retention schedule for all public records and how long those items have to be kept. Some of them are forever. Those are the ones that are a storage problem, especially when your town is 1889. They just keep mounting. Others are I think the typical is 3-year. A lot of them, some of them are 1 year, some of them are 30 days. Some of them, like I said, you destroy every day. So I just wanted to put this in here, not expecting you to read every bit of this, or we're not going to go over every bit of it while we're sitting here. But just want you to know, especially Virginia and Charlie, who have, I mean, you got some of this last week, that we don't have say in a lot of the things that we are required to do in terms of public records. So if in doubt, don't destroy anything unless you know what that retention is. That's part of the reason we just set you up personal business email accounts so that you can quit doing business inside your personal email accounts. It's real easy when you have an account that's dedicated to town business. You know, somebody can do a public records request at any moment, and you know, basically, if you just move them into out of your inbox into a separate file and forget them, they'll be there when that public records request is made. If you have a public records request that's made for email, for instance, and let's say one party, let's say it's one you sent, and the recipient has it, but you don't, you're likely to end up in some kind of trouble because there was a retention schedule that you had to adhere to, and a lot of those can be deleted in 30 days, but a lot of those you need to keep 2, 3 years. So best policy probably is just keep them.
I want to thank Virginia for pushing that issue, because I think it's made a difference, and thank you, because it helps. I think it's a great idea. Thanks for thinking.
So everything I've deleted on there,
You're going to jail.
Probably not.
I kept copies of them.
the town would keep a copy, would it not?
That's correct.
On your server.
If council sends me an email, somebody in council, those emails, I have not deleted any of those emails. They're all in my account. It's ridiculous. I've got around 10,000 emails already.
Since when?
After 1
Since I
year?
started,
A year.
a year
After a
ago.
year?
Can we microfiche or put on a CD some of the earlier records? Are you allowed to do that?
How about the cloud?
How about what?
The cloud.
Well, the cloud is just a fancy word for a server at some location.
Yeah.
So we have our own internal cloud. We have a server, and all of these are stored on our server. And we have redundancy in our server in that we have a contract with Hitstech, and that's our IT company. And everything that's stored on our servers is also stored on another server off premises.
Good.
So you very well may be familiar with the situation that just recently occurred in Ashe County, where the sheriff got in trouble and was relieved of his duties, and it had to do with emails, and it had to do with the WBTV in Charlotte requested records that were not provided. And it created quite a stir. It ended up that I don't think Ashe County ended up having to pay any penalty, but the sheriff did lose his job. And there's a long story behind that, and I won't go into it. It's pretty interesting. It involves somebody with Hitstech who was making sure that he complied with the public records law, but he got in trouble for doing it because the person that the suit was against did not want him to comply.
Did that not get overturned?
Yeah,
It got overturned, but he's gone, the sheriff.
but I'm not sure that's
What was the
done.
benefit of the overturn?
You're not sure what?
I don't know. I was kind of shocked that it turned out the way it
I'm not
did.
sure there's not other lawsuits that's gonna come out of this now, being they decided that WBTV was in error and they had to drop their case, and so he has already lost his job, so I'm not so sure.
He might sue him.
They say, yeah, I'm not so sure there's some other lawsuits that's not gonna come out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A real
So
plug.
it's one of those weird things where somebody can be doing something wrong, but the one going after them does something wrong, and it kind of negates what the first one was doing wrong because there's no case
Is
there.
that what they call two wrongs make a right?
So I'm just, I've highlighted all of these are important, 132. Starting with number 3, all of those are bullet points. So just make sure you read those and understand them. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to work with you to see if we can resolve any questions, but
What was it, Virginia, they said, if you have any question at all, then don't do it. Is that?
That's
is that what it
with
was?
the take and give.
Yeah. Goes without saying, it's all the way across the board, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, the Lexus,
you know, the Lexus that you got is gonna.
the trip to Hawaii that you
I
got.
don't have a Lexus. Head.
He gave it to the town.
I turned it in, I got a credit.
You know what he's driving now.
Are we putting stuff on,
A little plug for my hometown.
instead of printing out,
Are we what?
I mean, the documents, is the town still using paper, or are we putting stuff on disk?
We use paper.
You do? Why?
One, there is a problem when you put things on disk, will you be able to read it from 10 years from now? And there are some formats that are dedicated towards trying to make a standard that will be good 50 years from now, but nobody knows that that standard's gonna be met. So, we have electronic records on some things that we keep, we have hard copy records on other things. On the hard copy records, on those things that, let's say we have a 3-year retention schedule, we have those filed by a year, and when we get to a given point, we can go in and start destroying those records.
I was just thinking storage space wise.
Yeah.
We
We
actually
do
looked at
minimize
it.
it by putting on top of it and deleting them as soon as we can. Or
When we were gonna look at
destroying them
changing
as
it
soon as
from
we can.
paper to this microfiche or something, we looked at it and it was very expensive.
Very time consuming.
And time,
When you're trying to
you know,
figure out what you already have.
You almost have to hire another person
Yeah.
to stand there and scan stuff all day long.
Right.
And not just any person, because we've had, what's it called, where they're doing community service and they scan it in, and if you don't, you're just scanning it, may not be legible, like it's saying.
It has its benefits, but it also has limitations. So that was really all I was going to say.
Did you want to go over anything on 136, 137, 138?
Let's see, I'm not too there yet.
Okay.
So,
You mean page or item?
Page.
so yes. All right, so public records and sunshine laws, that was our 9:30 topic. All right,
Moving right
mayor and
along.
statutory. I had been asked exactly what is my role. What page did you say that was on?
I was just looking at the ones that you hadn't covered, which is page 137, official meeting means a meeting. The next page, a public body may not consider.
Let's see what, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm looking for what
meeting of public
might
body.
have been, I've got that one. I'm looking for what's in the section before, so I put it in there.
Confidentiality of records, inspection and exam of records, provisions for copies of public records fees.
Limited access, social security numbers,
All right,
free trial.
the chapter 132 of the general statutes, so let me get to that beginning page, that was on 116. Just had highlighted 132.1 to make sure that you understand what is a public record. A public record or record shall mean all documents, papers, letters, maps, books, photographs, films, sound recordings, magnetic or other tapes, electronic data processing records, artifacts, or other documentary material, regardless of its physical form or characteristics, made or received pursuant to law or an ordinance in connection with the transaction of public business. So basically, every kind of media, every kind of document, email, everything you have can be construed to be part of your transacting business or part of town, and is a public record, and is governed by North Carolina general statutes on what you can and cannot do with it, and how long you have to keep it, so. And
So
going-
that's why I use the telephone and don't write it down.
You know, exactly, there are things that
Buzz.
you do not want to put in an email.
Well, remember that when you leave a voicemail,
I don't.
I can, from my iPhone,
He doesn't know he has.
email that voicemail to anybody I want to. So just, I mean, phones are not safe, that safe.
Trust me, they are with Jim.
Okay. Do you have a flip phone still?
Mine is,
This is pre-flip phone.
Oh, that's
mine is
hilarious.
real safe.
Oh, that's a flip.
No accident or anything.
So what it amounts to is you've got, as a council member, you need to use discretion in what you put in print, because what you write can come back to haunt you.
Kevin didn't take it.
So
Yeah.
if you call me, a telephone conversation is not a public
You
record.
had one yesterday, but I don't know about it.
If you email me the same thing, it's a public record. So,
That's
Let's
Charlie.
get into also my
That won't
internet
fit
is that for informational use only, as long as we don't, if you send us something and it's not nothing that we have to answer, that's not nothing that we have to say.
that's right. If
So
it's a
let's get into
one-way
that.
conversation, even with a citizen sends you an email, unless you respond to that, it's not a public record.
Right, and that you don't have to say, you can delete. So,
It's called transitory.
Transitory?
Transitory means it's, you believe that it is short-lived information. That's what transitory means. So if you send in something like, Jim, we're gonna have a meeting on Wednesday, write it on my calendar, and I can delete it because it's short-lived information.
All of these emails that you receive, and I assume we've got all the email addresses changed, are all of you receiving information now from the league and from the School of Government?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Or just occasional emails that say,
Updates.
No, now Roseland Williams' last email to me came through my old address.
okay, we need to make sure we get that changed. If we
The only other thing I-
What kind of information is that, by the way?
Transitory.
Transitory? Okay.
Yeah, if it's just something announcing to you that there's gonna be a school on this topic
Yeah,
or
okay.
something, then you can delete that.
All right.
I think that's the only one that I've had so far, which is from Rose.
Okay.
All right, we'll try to confirm that.
I'm probably not added in yet on there.
Well, by
Yeah.
your registration
Oh, that-
for the School of Government class,
Thursday,
my
Friday.
guess is you're gonna start receiving those now.
Okay.
And some of you may be receiving those at both addresses. And if you are, we'll have to try to work to get your personal addresses out of their database.
Okay.
And by the way, on your email, you know, for everybody that you've known for years who knows you and has your personal email address, they're not gonna stop using your email address immediately just because you have a new one. So, I would recommend that when you respond to an email, that you copy, paste, go create a new email in your TOBR account, paste their email into that and respond from your TOBR. And you might also, in your personal accounts, you usually have a place to put in a signature. Go into your signature line and just put something, I don't know what it ought to say, but if emails that you are sending are related to town business, please change my address to the TOBR.us.
They were recommending at that meeting that like yours, I think you have a disclaimer at the bottom of
Yes.
yours that says
And-
this is a public record.
Yes, and
We could put
so
that
one
in
of you
there.
will have to send me an email. I asked that be put as a server, that you don't have to put that in yourself, that every single email you send that comes from TOBR would automatically have that enclosure at the
Oh,
bottom.
good.
I'm not sure, one of you, I'll have to check one of your emails and see if it's there. But if it's not, we should be able to do that, so you don't have to do that.
And I'm working with Kent to learn how to cut and paste.
And I need to get it on my
By-
phone.
by
Mine's
I can teach you right after this.
On his phone, on his
Copy paste, I got my scissors.
Yeah, exactly, that's the only way I know how to do it.
Elmer's glue. Elmer's glue.
That's the only way I know how to do
That's
it.
the only way I know how to do it.
I'll
help you with it.
I don't know how to cut and paste.
High-tech guy right here.
Good, yeah.
All right, going into that next section where Jim was talking about on page 137, this is about public meetings. And the first one I have highlighted there is 143.310.10, and just talking about what is an official meeting. Just a reminder that any two of you can meet with one another anytime you want to, and you can transact all the town business you want so long as it's only two of you. Once it becomes three of you, then it is a public meeting, whether or not you made it public or not, and therefore you would be in violation of the public meeting law. So, same thing, you say, I'm gonna call so-and-so, and we're gonna do a conference call. If three of you are on that conference call, you are involved in something that should be public business, a public body business, and that would not be a legal conversation.
We don't have to worry about that with Jim.
But you got four others. Official meeting means a meeting, assembly, or gathering together at any time or place, or the simultaneous communication by conference, telephone, or electronic means of a public body for the purpose of conducting hearings, participating in deliberations, or voting upon, or otherwise transacting the public business. I should have been worse there. This one. Within the jurisdiction, real or apparent, or of the public body. So things that you might think are not public meetings technically would be public meetings. So just be careful. No.
Go ahead and read the rest of that article.
That same sentence?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's important to remember too. However, a social meeting or other informal assembly or gathering together of the members of a public body does not constitute an official meeting unless called or held to evade the spirit of the purposes of this article. Does that mean that you can all 5, 6 go to the restaurant and have dinner together? Absolutely. Does it mean you could be at a party together? Yes, it does. Just don't talk about town business. So you can all 4, 5, 6. You got a car big enough, you can all be in a car together going to a destination. Just refrain from talking about town business.
One quiet ride.
And the same with being at meetings. You can be at the planning board meeting or another meeting. There can be more than the two of you there, as long as you don't talk about business.
What about if business is being talked about in front of you?
Just say, I can't be part of this conversation, y'all have to take that somewhere else if you can.
No, if you're at, so your example of being at a TDA meeting, if more than 2 of us are there,
More than 2 of you can be there. However, there is something about the public perception is reality. That's not true, but that's what people think. 3 of you can be at a TDA meeting. Just don't be in any deliberations, don't be in any conversations. If you want to listen, that's fine. But do remember that anytime you do that, there is also going to be a public perception that there might have been an impropriety because there were more than 2 of you there.
And like you said, not just only TDA, at any meeting.
Planning board
That's right.
or.
We just don't sit together. 2 of us can sit together, but what we'll do is you'll notice when we go to the planning board meetings, we're in different spots in the room.
How many times has the truth not been important? It's public perception of what the truth was. And that's hard to deal with, so.
That's right on the
The other thing, General Statute 143-318.11 deals with closed sessions. And I know there's oftentimes, it's mentioned, well, we need to go into closed session to do this, or we need to go into closed session to do that. The only reasons that you can go into closed session are these that are listed here in this statute. And I know
Okay.
I highlighted number 6, that's on page 138.
Right.
Because, even if we're talking about candidates for boards, committees, a public body may not consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, appointment, or removal of a member of the public body or any body, and may not consider or fill a vacancy among its own membership except in an open meeting. Final action making an appointment or discharge or removal by a public body having final authority for the appointment or discharge or other removal shall be taken in an open meeting. So when we go into closed session for something, say in a town council meeting, and we come back into open session, if there was a decision made in that closed session, in a lot of cases, you have to reveal what that decision was. Now, the public wasn't party to the deliberations, the discussion, but in most cases, they are owed an explanation of any decision that was made. Now, there are exceptions to that as well. If attorney-client privilege, you don't have to come out and reveal what was done. Personnel issue, you don't have to come out and tell what's done. If you fired the manager in closed session, you've got to come out into the open session and say, we fired the manager.
That's all you can say.
But if we're,
But actually, we
Don't
learned
worry,
that.
we're not going into closed session.
You're good for another week, man.
Good for at least one more day.
You are at the end of this, Jim. Doug and I learned that for conduct of a council member. Remember that you can't go into closed session. You have to do that in
Yeah, I was wrong.
What?
I was wrong.
say
You
with
were
the
wrong.
I
property,
held into one time, closed session, and acts of impeachment were presented, I think, close to
The
it.
door wasn't open when all that happened?
No. That's when our attorney said the meeting was ridiculous, and he recommended we go out of the meeting. Nobody bothered to ask him before that.
Let
and
me
you
ask
know,
you something
man,
about this. It says that the public body may not consider qualifications, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes on to say, final action, however, making an appointment to discharge or remove, the final authority must be taken in an open meeting. So is that saying that you can go into a closed session and talk about all that stuff?
Yes.
No decisions can be made?
That's correct.
So then you
can
can go-
even come to a
So then you
consensus.
go in, so you can come to some sort of a, forget about the consensus. You just talk about stuff up in the wall, or whatever. We talked about things. Say, okay, now we've got all that aired out. Now we have to make a decision. So you say, fine. We gotta open up the session now. Is that correct?
Take a motion to go out of closed session, back into open
Open
session.
session in order to make a decision.
That's right.
Close the
Okay.
action.
But you can call a closed session to discuss these things.
You can.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's wrong.
and we, evidently you and I
Oh,
marked
no,
a
wait,
lot of
wait a
the-
minute,
It
wait a
says,
minute. I
it says
messed up.
accept an open meeting.
Yeah, no, you can, it depends on who you're talking about. If you're talking about the manager, yes, you can. If you're talking about doing that to make a decision on another council member, no, you can't. If you're talking about doing that for a board or committee member, no, you can't. No. But on the manager, you can.
Employees.
Employees, you
That is
cannot.
true.
You can if there
Well,
is
that's
a
true.
legal issue, you can talk about the legal issue. Council is not in charge of the employees.
Right, that's you.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got it.
If they've got a legal thing pending.
But they are in
against
charge
them,
of it.
We can.
Are they in charge of the board members?
Can't do that, and you have to do it in open session, that's what we learned.
Huh?
You have to do it in open session. So if a conduct of a council member is not appropriate, then you can't address that, but you have to do it in open session.
Now, you
So
can-
basically,
I understand
you're
that.
talking,
I understand about the council,
okay.
but I'm talking about these board people.
Let's take a situation very simple. Let's say somebody on the planning board, let's say they are convicted of a DUI. And you think that is bad to have a planning board member who's been convicted, or let's make it even worse, they've been convicted of a crime. You can discuss that in open session, and you can relieve them of their duties on that board. But
In
you've
open
got to do it
session.
in open session.
But can you not discuss the charge in closed session?
Depending on who it is. If it's an employee, yes.
Right. That's what I'm
If
saying.
we have an employee who has committed a crime,
Right.
we can discuss the legal context with the attorney in closed session, then come back out. But, let's see, that one is in here.
Okay, well,
Does it define serious crime and misdemeanors or just serious
but
crime?
they haven't been convicted yet, so but you still are talking to the attorney about what What can be done
Privilege.
about the,
It's in the same thing you highlighted, just a little higher up on number 6.
Number 6.
To hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance.
Okay.
may not be
Number 7, to
considered.
plan, conduct, or hear reports concerning investigations of alleged criminal misconduct. We can discuss that in closed session.
General personnel policy issues may not be considered in closed session.
That's right.
Okay.
And
Then numbers, it's the letter C there on, still, down below 10, calling a closed session, a public body may hold a closed session only upon a motion duly made and adopted at an open meeting, and every motion has to cite by the statutory number the reason you're going into closed session.
And that's why you always read it out, isn't it?
Right, when we put it on the agenda, as a matter of fact, if you look at your agenda for today, or for tomorrow, 11:30, closed session to discuss performance of town manager pursuant to NCGS 143-318, 11, paren 6. I was going to recite that.
And it would,
You had it memorized.
when you allege that, limited to that discussion only.
You are right. You cannot bring up anything else.
That requires the mayor to keep us on track.
What?
That requires the mayor to keep us on
Ed, I
track.
think you copied my thing.
Ed, I'll be,
think you copied my
Okay.
I'll be mailing you my settlement.
Okay. Don't mail it, tell me.
I can't comprehend the figure that.
Let Jim call it.
On page 140, there was a question about can we do written ballots? Yes, you can do written ballots, but it is a public record ballot. And when you conduct business by ballot, you're required to put your name on the ballot, and whoever's in charge is required to read who voted for what. So
It's a
Waste
new
of
point. Why do it?
yeah, it's kind of like, why bother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
There goes the secret ballot.
Yep.
yep.
Might get you time to get out the back door.
That's all right, fine.
It's close.
let's see,
44,
one,
mayor and council.
it's on page 144, this is just kind of more, you know, there are statutes that apply to every governmental entity, and then there are statutes that apply to counties, statutes 153, there are statutes that apply to the municipalities, it's 160 alpha. This is 160 alpha that applies to municipalities specifically. You've got page 144, general powers of the mayor and council. There are, from time to time, there are good suggestions that come from good people that say, we ought to do this. If the state doesn't say you can do that, you cannot do it. We are creatures of the state. We only have the powers that they have given us. Now, you can go out on a limb and say, well, they're silent on this, so we'll try to get away with it. Sometimes it's going to be challenged, and the state may reverse whatever decision you made because you didn't have the power, you didn't have the authority, the power to make that decision. That came up recently, especially with the forgotten the word I want to use, the fees that, the assessment fees that, like a municipality would say, impact fee, we're going to charge you $2,000 because you're going to impact our sewer system, and we need a new sewer system, and we need to be saving up money for that, so we're going to charge you X number of dollars. The state ruled on that and created a lot of havoc, and I think a lot of it's still going to be reversed. But that's an example where towns said, well, state didn't say anything about this, so they're looking for new sources of revenue, and they say, well, let's do this. And then the state can come in and challenge that and say, no, we never gave you the authority to collect revenue that way. Look at your statutes. So it can be changed. General powers of the mayor and council, 144, except as otherwise provided by law, the government and general management of the city shall be vested in the council. The powers and duties of the mayor shall be such as conferred upon him by law, together with such other powers and duties that have been conferred by the council. The mayor shall be recognized as the official head of the city for the purposes of civil process and for ceremony. The mayor, later on in 160 Alpha 69, the mayor shall preside at all council meetings, but shall have the right to vote only when there are equal numbers of votes in the affirmative and in the negative.
Ed, man, Bonnie, for one second, I just want to go back to one thing right quick, just for the purpose of a thing that we discussed in class.
Yeah.
And if you'll look under 143-318, 17 disruptions of official meetings on page 142, remember the guy in class down there who asked that question?
You're in which article?
143-318,
That point what?
disruptions of official meetings.
17.
Remember,
Yeah.
remember we had the guy down there
Yes.
wanting to know what they could do because
Yes.
they were having a group, having their problems.
Yeah.
And that, I just wanted you to, I didn't know if you had noticed this. I just wanted you to see that.
That's another benefit, and thanks again for us going, is that we heard other councils' questions and issues that they're dealing with, and they had some disruptive meetings. And it was clarified that the mayor needs to warn them, and then they can be guilty.
That's good.
Yeah, if they don't cease and desist.
Yeah, you have the police get them and take them out.
And I guess you would have, if there's a contentious something coming before us, you would make sure that a police officer is there.
We do and have, not since the council, but since I've been here on 2 occasions, we have had the police waiting in the wings.
Yeah, that's good. That's reassuring. I mean, we shouldn't, we've got that
And
little
you don't
table in
always
front
know
of
when
us,
something's
but
gonna be contentious, because you can have a balloon come in and just blow up over nothing. It doesn't even have to do with the agenda, but
Could be a
lots of times when we
gymnastic
put the agenda together, you know, we can look through there and we say, yeah, this one's probably gonna generate a lot of discussion, probably a lot of negative. And just for the protection of the public, we'll have
Talks to
our representative in the meeting, and we likely will have one standing outside as well.
That's good.
And I think what brought this up too, you know, the example they used was, and everybody saw it on TV, was when they escorted the teacher out, you know, with the problems they had. And so they had questions on that, and they wanted to know what legal recourse the town had in dealing with people like that, with not getting against their First Amendment rights and blah, 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 you know. So that was one of the things, and thanks for letting us go back to that. Sorry about that.
But it,
And
yeah, stay on that just 1 second. That example, that person being disruptive, I would think that the presiding officer had to advise the person that they were invoking this particular statute, that they were being disruptive, and therefore he was going to have them removed with a possible, whatever that thing, second, whatever that thing is called.
Class 2 misdemeanor.
Class 2 misdemeanor. And in no way should that be interpreted against your civil rights of free speech.
Well, and
Because we gave you a chance to speak
Jim,
freely and you
They went
talked.
over that?
And they-
Yes.
Oh, did they go over
Yeah,
that?
they addressed how they would recommend with each.
Okay,
yeah.
all
You know,
right.
the mayor would say, you know, please, if you would.
Because I don't want us to get, if I came up, sued against, for taking a court.
But if there's a crowd of people with signs that said redheads are trolls, and they're sitting in the audience,
What should we do?
You can't do
I can't do
You can't
anything.
do a thing.
I can't do anything.
Now,
We can hold
if they call you a troll, then we got a real issue.
Then and I-
Okay.
This isn't on the agenda, but it's a good point, good time to mention this too. You know, we had a scare about 3 months ago. Well, no, you don't, but we had someone who was making threats, seemed like they were only halfway grasping life, looked like they were on the edge and could explode any moment, very confrontational, and I made a change that the doors going into the offices at Town Hall would remain locked. And we would no longer allow people to go through from one side to the other or come from the planning side through our space. And it's been a battle, but I go and lock the doors and other people unlock them. And I lock them and other people unlock them. But it was council's idea and directive at that time that you need to make sure you're responsible for your employees. You need the doors locked.
How
I
about
would-
emergency people getting to the employees?
Anybody that wants to come through bad enough can just slide through the window.
Yeah, you're right.
That's true,
Yeah.
yeah.
And unlock the door.
Yeah, and then unlock the door, so.
Yeah, okay.
But it
I
is.
was just thinking, if somebody had a heart attack, I want them to get to y'all.
Yeah, and of course, we're gonna be inside, and we're obviously gonna open the door for if we've got that situation, so if somebody's there alone, but there, you know, that pull-down window there is only down in the event of a fire. So it's a little protection. Like I say, that granite, you can slide across it. I've had to do it a couple times when I left my key in my office.
It's cold though, isn't it?
It is. But I personally like that policy. I think it is I think it's important for our employees to feel safe in their work environment. I know that in a lot of ways that issue is behind us and people are pretty lax. We don't lock the door very much anymore. Like I say, I'm constantly going by and locking the door, and so just want to let you know that my plan is to
I
continue
like
to
it
leave
because
that
they
door
have to get up and
locked.
open it.
Yeah.
For me.
Do you
Because
do
I
that?
ain't sliding across the table.
I mean,
Well-
you got a big opening there.
We do, and
They can come in from planning and zoning.
they can, and we've asked them not to allow anybody to come through that side, but it's still gonna happen, but we control to the degree that we can and try to at least minimize the problem. We're never gonna do anything that's gonna correct it unless we put.
Steel bars.
Hey,
or-
now, you know, the things that these dog fences,
Yeah,
we zip, zip, zip. So you go, we got a
They gotta be wearing a collar.
would you mind putting this on while you're here?
That's hilarious.
This could be the thing that goes like this, automatic. Just zap them, just put
Well,
them.
it's not trivia, you never know when
Hey,
And, you know, we've had mentioned, you know, we should probably put in bulletproof glass over that big window, and
I don't know about that, but have you thought about putting in a panic button?
we have a panic button. so-
Okay, cause I know, you know, we have one down at the AC store that we can always open.
We used to have them under our desk, or they?
How many desks do we have those under? Is it just one or two?
Pay my taxes, I actually go in and pay my taxes.
That was because of the X involved.
Should be one at counter though.
Right.
At least four.
Are they still
Four.
on?
All right, Nicole thinks we have 4 panic buttons.
Are they
And they
on?
work,
Yeah, there's
Do they
supposed to
work?
be tested.
are they battery or,
The
I
kind,
think that they are battery,
Yeah.
I think so.
So that's something we need to write on our list. to
Yeah.
we check them once a year, 'cause we check ours at the university.
Ed?
We have them in our desk.
Can we will check to see if they're off
Yes, sir.
of it? They were.
Yep.
But they should really be checked, you
And
know.
I think they were recently, because I think I remember Linda, getting the panic button when the issue is the situation I'm talking about.
Where's new business?
Yeah, sometimes people accidentally hit them and say, oh, good, we know it works.
Yeah.
Where's new business on here?
Where's one?
Any new business?
We can't have new
Well-
business.
Used to have
A
cats.
lot of these
New
things
business.
are new business.
Oh, well then, let me just throw something out. The fire department and police department have these little badges that they can wear, and they can come into our, they can get into our offices by sliding that little thing, and they can get into the buildings. I got to thinking, my wife and I are in our house, and I thought, what if I had a lock that was like they have at town hall? And the fire department and the ambulance and the police department could get into my house in an emergency without me going to the door or something like that, say one, either I or my wife has something going on. Okay? What if I had a lock like that?
They got a knock
And,
box.
and Kent said, yeah, they can do that. You can buy a lock, and you can ask them to code it, like the town hall, so that the fire and ambulance can come into your house. You don't have to ring the doorbell, we can go in and look around and see where you are or whatever. And I thought, maybe that would be pretty cool. And I was thinking about the age, what I'm thinking about is the age of of the people who live in our town. It would be an option if they wanted to buy that lot. But I thought, you know, that could be one heck of a nice, they knew about
It's
it.
not a lock,
Okay.
it's a locked box. Where you put
Yeah,
it.
I think we need to move on, guys. I really
It's
do.
$200 to buy it from Kent.
Thank you.
You can buy one for 12 at Lowe's.
All right, well, anyway,
Ed, let's
I
move
just thought
on.
I'd mention that because I thought it was a cool idea.
I've got one of my house.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
On page 145.
Oh, we don't need to address that section, it's taken care of.
70, Mayor Pro Tem, just, know we've got some new folks. During the absence of the mayor, the council may confer upon the Mayor Pro Tem any of the powers and duties of the mayor. If the mayor should become physically or mentally incapable of performing the duties of the office, the council may by unanimous vote declare that he is incapacitated and confer any of his powers and duties to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Mentally.
And then the last thing in that section is voting.
Does that include psychologically temporarily unstable?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
start foaming at the mouth, we're gonna vote you
Okay,
out.
not a problem.
Vote
One
him
big,
in.
one big thing is the mayor votes in case of a tie.
That's right.
The pro tem
Votes
is presiding,
regardless.
he can vote like a councilman.
That's right. And in a lot of, especially smaller towns, there is not an elected mayor. The mayor is appointed from, the mayor is elected by the other council members. So they, in that case, that mayor always votes. And then the last thing is 160 Alpha 75, page 146. No member shall be excused from voting except upon matters involving the consideration of the member's own financial interest or official conduct, or on matters on which the member is prohibited from voting under these other statutes. In all other cases, votes taken under this in 160 Alpha 385, a failure to vote by a member who is physically present in the council chamber or who has withdrawn without being excused by a majority vote of the remaining members present shall be recorded as an affirmative vote. And that was, I left out, I skipped from 75 to 81, that's what those dots are for, because I didn't want you to think that this was all of the section that deals with that. And I think that takes us to Memorial Trees, and that is 10:30, and it is 11:30, and you said that we told them we would be there at 11:30. So
We'll try to, let's all try to pick up the pace if we can after lunch.
We need to reconvene.
Well, we
What
got
time
it.
do you want to reconvene?
we have lunch from 11:30 to 1 if
When we come back at
Let's
12:30.
do 12:30. Is that okay with everybody? Let's see if we can.
If we can
The
get served
problem
in there
is
quick enough.
service, problem service.
Yeah.
Sometimes it
say
takes,
if
we'll see.
possible.
Don't forget to
We'll,
tell
Just tell your
we'll
servers
shoot for
that
12:30, okay?
That's right.
Um,
So we're not here for the.
can we leave, are y'all leaving electronic stuff in here?
Yeah,
we have
two cars out.
Which,
Yeah, because she was going back.